Thank you, Dave. Thank you, the rest of the guys and girls. Dave said to me before I came on to speak today, he says, do you want to do a song? And I thought about it for about a second, Dave, to be honest with you. But it's a bit cold for my poor fingers. And my own band does what most of our fans call potty mouth songs. That means I swear a lot, okay, in my music. So I'm going to try and keep it clean today. I'm going to talk about our experiences in the MU, but also about the wider issues of casualisation, equal pay, pensions and those kind of issues, which I know are important to you. So first off, fraternal greetings and solidarity from the MU to you guys in the UCU for what you're doing and what you're standing up for and what you're fighting for, because your fight is right and your fight is just. And I think it's more important now, more than ever, to stand up and fight for your rights. I'm a keen Twitterer. David Cameron had a different word for that, if you remember, back in 2015. And on the subject of equal pay, I saw something on Andrea Leadsom's social media last week. Andrea Leadsom is a senior Tory minister, and what she was proclaiming was that only the Tories can deliver equal pay now and in the future. I don't know about you, but I thought that was a bit of a joke. And I'll tell you why it's a joke. Because 80% of British companies have an equal pay problem. And over the last 3 years, 45% of those companies have seen the equal pay gender gap increase. So when a Tory says to me, they're going to be on your side when it comes to equal pay, with everything they're doing with their economic policy and their employment policies, I'm sorry, but I just think that's like a fart in a colander. That's my first swear word, okay? They're wrong. So, we've got a Tory government that's running our education system, our schools and colleges and universities. They're intent on maximising profit and getting more out of you for less. For nearly 10 years, we've seen the marketisation of education with a dramatic impact on the terms and conditions of those working in education. Students paying ridiculous level of fees to attend university, turning education from a public service into a private enterprise, where now 80% of university's income is considered to be in the private sector. Now, I'm sure most of you know that anyway. I was reading a report from a professor at Bristol University over the weekend, and I was shocked at some of the stuff he was saying. Fees, loans, grants, on-site franchises, selling anything from merchandise to soup to make money. It represents £38 billion annually, employs 430,000 staff in 165 universities, and now half of those staff are on casualised contracts. This Uberisation of education is truly shocking, and in what should be a public service, education, it has to stop. I believe that education, a free education, is a lifelong right for all our citizens. Absolutely. When I worked for Unison a few years ago, I was absolutely struck by my colleagues in UCU when I used to go to universities to negotiate on behalf of Unison members, just how passionate the UCU reps were in fighting your corner, not only for pay terms and conditions and your pension and employment rights, but also standing up for the students and fighting for, you know, opportunities and equality for the students as well. So I take my hat off to you guys that you're taking this action, because I don't think this is just about your fight. This is a fight for education and trying to stop the marketisation of education. But one thing that marketisation has done, and I think it's probably an unintended consequence in the eyes of the people who run universities and the Tories, the marketisation and the financial obsession, maximising profit and income and productivity, has actually given you guys a more powerful weapon than you probably had 10 or 15 years ago. Now when you take action, now when you take strike action, they're going to have to sit up and take notice, because they are so driven by their financial targets that even the slightest squeeze on them will impact them. So that is why you need to stay strong, stand up, fight for your rights, fight for what you believe in, fight for pensions, fight for your equal pay, and fight for against casualisation. That's my view, anyway.
Thank you.
I did write this long speech, but as ever, I'm a bit of a busker being a musician, and I tend to go off-piste. Francis says to me, talk a bit about what the MU does. Okay, so we've got 30,000 members in the MU. 80% of those members are either working under casualised contracts or are self-employed. One of our current biggest problems in the MU are those casualised workers, the self-employed, where many schools and colleges are forcing them to teach, claiming that they're self-employed when in fact they're under the control of the education establishment that they work for. It's something that we've done a lot of work on. But what I will say is, being a lifelong trade unionist and musician, there is only ever one answer, and that is to join a union and fight back. Because our biggest weapon in this battle has been our collective bargaining agreements. Now for us, it doesn't matter whether somebody is employed in an orchestra or working in a theatre. We have collective bargaining agreements and we have fiercely protected those agreements. Equally, if they're casualised workers working in the record industry or associated industries, we have collective bargaining agreements. But we also have a large tranche of members who are truly casualised. We know a lot about casualisation because our members work in the original gig economy. Okay, we've got lots of self-organised bands who, I tell you today, are still going out and earning a living on rates they were paid in the 1980s. That's what casualisation does, because it's not just about those people in work working under collective bargaining agreements, it's also about the freelancers working under collective bargaining agreements, because the more they are eroded, it permeates itself through society and we end up in a race to the bottom. And that is what your fight is also about, in my view. It's about fighting against that race to the bottom to make sure that your collective bargaining and your organisational strength is maintained. And our services in the MU are geared around that. So when our members are doing their casual work or their gigging or whatever it is they're doing, we have a very strong core message and core philosophy and core, I guess you might call it, legal services in terms of how we tackle employers. And when employers do not pay or engagers do not pay, we take them on. We're not famous for our strike action in the MU, but we are famous for fighting our legal battles. We had exactly the same. You may have heard of a show called War Horse. It was a very famous film as well. And those musicians who've been on that show for quite some time, who we considered employed, were sacked. Yes, we had demonstrations, yes, we had collective action, but we took them to court, we fought and we won, and we got the biggest payout in history in the gig economy. And that's what a union can do for you. So I will say, get organised, stand up, fight back, win this fight. We are behind you, the MU is behind you, and thank you very much for listening to what I've got to say. Thank you. Thank you.